everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we're going to continue working on getting ready to swap the 833 OD transmission into our 76 Dodge pickup. I've gone ahead and ordered the few parts and bits and pieces that we need to get this done. And in the meantime, we're going to start getting what I'll call everything else ready. Which is namely the bell housing and all of this stuff. First thing we're going to get rid of is all this stuff. I've got a used pressure plate, a good used flywheel, and we managed to find a new clutch disc. This is a 10-inch one. I said before 9.5, I think, in a previous video, but it's a 10-inch clutch that is behind the slant 6 in a truck only, 9-inch in a car. Maybe some 9.5s in later stuff. I'm not 100% sure on that. Anyway, so we're going to get these things cleaned up first. These are the actual correct pressure plate bolts. You can see there, they've got that bit of shoulder on them. So we'll get those all cleaned up, put new lock washers on them. Let's see where we go. So we can see here our flywheel has been run with a 9-inch clutch, and it needs to be resurfaced because that's not going to work too well with this 10-inch clutch sitting on top of it. So, well, let's get her cleaned up. I got the flywheel on the brake lathe here, and we're starting to make some rough cuts to get this thing brought down to where it's nice and smooth and flat, and then we'll take a nice finish cut, and that'll be that done, and save me 80 bucks. And this is an acceptable practice. Many brake lathes, if you read actually read the instruction manual that comes with them, they'll tell you how to cut flywheels. Alrighty, we're getting there. I'm just taking really small cuts at a time. You know, kind of sneak up on it. So we're not taking off any more material than absolutely necessary to true it up. Now we're starting to get down. I've reduced how much I'm taking off at a time down to 2/1000ths of an inch until we get through this. Right where the old clutch was running, the surface is work hardened. And you can really hear it cutting when it's going through there. I've got the outboard half of it pretty much gone now. We're good. The inboard half will probably take one more cut. And now we've got the 46-inch TV up on the wall. I have entertainment while I work. Simon Templar, the Saint, played by Roger Moore. Now we're taking one thou at a time because right in here, there's some real hard spots. Aunt Tilly must have been riding the clutch really bad in her old Valiant. I don't know what happened to it, but it's got some pretty nasty hard spots. It'll just take a few cuts to get through them and get rid of them, and then we'll be fine. We could take a finished cut then. There, you can hear it starting to get into the hard stuff now. Hear that? That's the hot spots it's cutting. We just about got these hot spots out of here. We're doing good. Couple more cuts and they should be gone. Let's see there. I think there's some on the other side. Yeah, they're the worst ones there. But they're disappearing too. Well, flywheel's cutting. I got my last can of genuine Mopar corporate blue spray paint. And we'll give this bell housing a shot. I got it all cleaned up. I chased all the threads. Just got to splash some color on it. Well, that sure is snazzy, isn't it? Wow. Now what we have to do, this is the rod that goes from the clutch pedal down to the torque shaft. And you can see here, it's starting to wear away. So what we have to do is weld that up, and then we're going to file it back to its original shape. We probably have to replace the studs on the torque shaft too. Yeah, that's all fixed up. Now we can give it a coat of paint. Well, that's looking pretty cool, eh? We got the bell housing together. Now what we need to do is sort out the clutch linkage. The first thing I have to deal with is the eye bolt here, and it is a sight for sad eyes, I have to say. Somebody's welded a washer on it, so we're gonna have to try and get that off. Otherwise, we'll see what happens. We may just have to get a new eye bolt. I hope they're available. There's different lengths, you know. So, but anyway, we're gonna have a go at fixing this one. First, I gotta try and grind all this stuff off, and we'll go from there. Okay, so that's it. We made it. I've done a little bit. Perfect. Yep, that's great. Next thing we have to do is weld up the two pins on this Z bar where they're worn down. This one's worn down from the eye bolt, and the other one, you can see there, it's pretty worn down from the clutch pedal rod. So we'll get those welded up and then file them back down to mostly round. Focus, come on. There we go. Got our pins welded up. Now I can start filing. There we go. Pins are fixed satisfactorily. We can go ahead now. Put that in the to be painted pile. And we can start working on our pedals, I guess. Oh no, I forgot this. This is the bracket that goes on the floor. It's just a stud plate, right? So what we got to do is get this thing off of here. I need to replace one stud in it. And I've actually got the hunk of floor from the truck. Just in case our truck, it should have little dimples in the floor where you drill to drop this thing through. But if it doesn't, we've got this to use as a template. That's a reference. See that? This rib and the pinch weld are all reference points. I would probably trim it there, sit it over the pinch weld in my truck, drill the holes, and then that one's pretty simple. That's just a nut and bolt, so you can drill that one through once you've got this down. Now we need to replace this one broken stud in this thing. So sometimes these things are just kind of pushed in. They've got kind of a spline arrangement. Sometimes they're spot welded in. I'm not sure how this one is in. So we're going to just put it up here like that and give it a smack and see what happens. Let's see, which one do you think it is? I'd say it's welded in, wouldn't you? Yeah, that ain't budging. Well, it did budge a bit. Looks like it's spot welded over on this side here. You can see it's kind of tilting over on an angle. So I may be able to get in there with my yeah. Okay, let me get in with my little cutoff wheel, and I'm gonna grind the head of this thing away, and then it should come right out. Okay, we're going to make a new stud for the floor out of this carriage bolt here. First we got to turn the head of it down so it's flat and thin like the other ones in there. Because this is right underneath your feet, you know, when you're driving. So once I've got this down, it'll just take a few cuts. Then we'll start working on, we've got to get rid of the square under the head. Okay, so the head is turned down. Now I have to switch my cutter so I can get in here with this one. I think I'm probably going to have to put center punch this and bring it out as far as I dare in the chuck and run the other end on a center. So we're just slowly picking away at this thing. Getting that square shoulder off of it. Just taking a few thou at a time. Now we'll get our pedals ready. Look, the rubber fell off the clutch pedal, so they found an interesting way to hold it on. So we'll get rid of that. We'll get these things cleaned up, give them a nice coat of semi-gloss black paint, and put the new rubbers on, and they'll be ready to go in the truck. Another thing I'm going to have to deal with on this little job is the steering column, because we won't want the prundle, whatever you call it, the gear shift indicator and the column shift and all that stuff. That's going to go. So I've got two floor shift steering columns here. This one is from a mid-80s two-wheel drive truck that had a slant 6 and a 4-speed, just like ours is going to have. This one here is from a 75 Ram Charger. And what you'll notice, this is the difference between a two-wheel drive and a four-wheel drive steering column. Don't ask me why they did them this way, but that's how they did them. The 4x4 has a spline joint right at the bottom, and the two-wheel drive has a rag joint. So this column should be a bolt-in replacement in our truck. Of course, these will probably be different. The plugs, that's the ignition switch. That's the turn signal switch. We'll check that out. In the end, it may be easier. I'm not 100% sure it'll work. I may be able to just take the floor shift column parts off of this column and put them into our column without having to take the column out of the truck. But we'll see, you know. If I do it that way, then I'll still have the shift tube rattling around in there, and you'll have the shift lever visible under the hood. So we'll see what it looks like. And we'll make the decision when the time comes. Here's our pedals all fixed up. This truck should have the old school gas pedal that pops onto the two ball studs screwed into the floor. But years ago, we converted it to a hanging gas pedal out of an 80s truck. The only problem was that the only gas pedal we had was out of like a Ram Charger SE or something, and it had the fancy chrome stuff on it. Well, that's not fitting for a custom 100. So we're gonna put this one in. We've got these pedals all fixed up, cleaned up, coat of paint, new rubbers on them, and this little fiber plastic thrust washer there for the clutch rod installed. That's the right amount of pedals for a truck. Now we're working on the torque shaft, or the Z bar for the clutch. It goes by a lot of different names. What we're going to do is get this end in, because it would have gone in this way in one piece. It's held in with a little clip. The clip, you'll see here, there's two little holes in the torque shaft. The ends of this clip go in and hold that. Then the other end is allowed to float, and it uses these longer bushings. Now sometimes you'll find you see the holes for the clip, they'll be in a little further about there. That's when you know that the brown ones go in and get clipped. But on this one, this particular one, it's the white one. I've got another Z bar in the house. It's a little bit shorter, so I'm guessing it's from a V8 truck with an 11-inch clutch and a 435 transmission, and it's got the thing in the further depth, and the holes are on this end. They're all different, right? So anyway, we're going to get that put in, get the clip on. I've pre-lubed it a little bit with some grease. A popular modification of these things back in the day, and possibly some of them came from the factory, was to add a grease fitting into the Z-bar so you could pack it full of grease. Good idea. Somebody's done this one already. And what I'm going to do to help it a little bit, I've got this old piece of broomstick that I cut and we're going to stick in there. It just kind of limits the amount of grease you have to pump into it. It takes up space, right? So you don't have to pump so much grease into it to get the thing greased. Alrighty, there's the clutch linkage all sorted out. Well, that's a pretty good looking pile of stuff, isn't it? We got everything here all ready to go. I did realize as I was doing this, I need to get some flywheel bolts. I had bought a set, but they were ARP, they were aftermarket ones, and they've got a nice 12-point head on them, but the center bore of the slant 6 flywheel doesn't have the clearance to allow me to use those. So that's all right. I got to run out. I got to get some bolts for that. And that should be about it. I've got all the hardware and everything for the rest of this stuff. And it's all ready to go. And while I was cleaning up this stuff, even though in the previous video I said I wasn't going to do it, I broke down and painted the tail housing of the transmission because it was going to drive me nuts if I didn't. Oh well, what are you going to do? And of course, like I said before, we will worry about the steering column when we get to that portion of the program. And that's going to bring this one to a close. I'll be back on this once we get the, once we get the parts for the transmission and we can put that back together. And I need a stretch of days that I know are going to be good to do the swap, because the truck is going to be in here and the snowplow is going to have to go back up in the barn for a few days. So I don't want it marooned over there and get 3 feet of snow or something, you know. It wouldn't be the first time it's happened. Anyway, I'm going to let you go now. I'd like to thank you for coming and checking out our little channel. Hope you'll come back and see us again. And until then, I'm Kevin, saying so long from the Claremont Classic Garage.